the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and verse 5, and it reads, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." Let's begin this lesson by giving all praise, glory, and honor due to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, RAWCHAA, QADASH. That is all praises, blessings, honors be to the Most High. His true name is YAHAWAH, that's whom the world ignorantly calls God. And our Lord and Savior, his name's YAHAWASHI, that's whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus. Shalom to the Lord's elect. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Much respect to the brothers that teach, preach, and prophesy in the true doctrine of YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. There could only be one truth. And double honors to the elders, the bishops, and the apostles of the great millstone. That is where I learned this truth. And I want to thank the Most High, YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, for giving me the inspiration, the Holy Spirit, the RAWCHAA, QADASH, and the Paleo Hebrew town to do this lesson. YAHAWAH willing, this lesson will be edifying and to the point. And this is a major blow, serious attack on Ukrainian infrastructure. And Russia has recently launched a series of missiles and drone attacks on the infrastructure of Ukrainian, the energy infrastructure, and also the Patriot, the U.S. Patriot defense missile systems. So they have a major blow to Ukrainian infrastructure. Let's get into this. This article is from the Hal Turner radio show, and I have a video or so to show you and get into some information here, because this is all leading up to what? The third and final world war. And I open up this epistle with the precept of Isaiah the 9th chapter and verse 5 specifically. It says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood." And this is describing how the ancient wars were fought. But in today's time, as it tells you in the book of Daniel, and knowledge shall increase. Now these nations have the ability to fight wars and destroy a lot of people from just the press of buttons or certain computer aided codes. To, you know, these missiles today are guided by what? Navigational systems, GPS, global position systems, and they're operated by fuel. So that's why I said, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And Russia just recently, about 2 weeks ago, or give or take, they just released some of their newest missiles. You know, they got the Oreshnik, they got the Satan II, they got the Poseidon, they got all these different missiles that they just and the newer one was the Berevnik. Don't quote me on that, but they're just showing you that they're displaying all the weapons that they have on full display. And the newer one, not the Berevnik, I believe it's called. Don't quote me on it, but it's this missile is capable of flying 14 plus hours. It can reach its target to United States and back. This is how powerful this missile is. So the Russians are not playing, because they know, the ones that really understand the prophecy of Gog and Magog, Ezekiel the 38th chapter, you know, and many other verses where it talks about what Russia will be a guard unto these nations. Jeremiah the 50th chapter, Jeremiah the 51st chapter, Isaiah the 34th chapter, Isaiah 13, Revelation 18, so on and so forth. Many of these verses go into what? Russia and its allies taking down America and its allies. You know, prophetically in the Bible, America is known as Babylon the Great. So let's dive into this here, because this is very important information in where we are in terms of prophecy. Just to look at the chart alone, it shows you all the attacks mapped out here, from the drone and missile attacks that the Russians release, you know, on the Ukrainians. So let's get into this. It says, Russia hits Ukraine with very large missile and drone barrages. So let's get into it. I'm just going to highlight a few things here. So it just shows you the map. I'm not going to bore you with all these details here because this is like they're showing you the targets where they have Russia has struck. It says, as reported live at the beginning of the Hal Turner radio show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, Russia attacked Ukraine with large barrages of missiles, including hypersonic and drones. Numerous targets were struck and damaged, destroyed, causing electrical blackouts in Kiev and other areas of Ukraine. This is huge because, like I said, I opened this by telling you what 70% of Ukrainian infrastructures are in total darkness, and the damage is so significant that they won't be able to repair this till sometime next year, because they had made a serious blow, and this is in the wintertime, so it is a very devastating blow to them. So let's dive into this. This was one of the largest, most destructive attacks since the beginning of the Russian special military operation. They're just showing you all the missiles that they have launched here. They just show you all the missiles they launched, like the Iskander ballistic missile. They tell you where they're launched from to the targets that they hit. It's right here. I just showed you, so a whole barrage of these missiles, the fire, because it tells you that. You just read it. This war will be fought with what fuel of fire from the missiles. So let's go. It says the main targets for the strikes were Ukrainian gas and energy infrastructure, and that's the hardest time of the year to do it in the wintertime, where people rely heavily on stuff to cook with or stuff to heat their homes or businesses or whatever it may be, because that's a very what's the word I'm looking at here? That's a very coordinated type strike. It says the main targets for the strike were Ukrainian gas and energy infrastructure. So they tell you where all the stuff was hit. I'm not even going to get into all that, but it says from chemical plants to thermal power plants, gas treatment plants, oil and gas extraction workshop, gas processing unit, thermal power plant, chemical plant. They tell you like they didn't leave any place pretty much untouched, and here's more. See, so now let's get into this. There is a video I want to show you. So before we show you the video, I'm going to copyright disclaimer of 1976, fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use. So this is a video with a retired Colonel Conor McGregor, Douglas McGregor, and he will break this down to way better than I can break it down. So this is very important what he's about to say. I'm just going to play a small portion of it. Once again, fair use. So stand by. Listen. So this is Colonel Douglas McGregor, retired. Okay, so now listen to this. Listen to what he says.
Let's say we're trying to send a signal. I think the signal is pretty obvious. You have done everything in your power, that is Washington, to destroy us in Moscow. You advanced this border of NATO to the very limits of its capability. And you caused the deaths of probably 130,000 or so Russians and nearly 1.8 million Ukrainians. And you refuse to drop this war. You keep feeding this fire, even though I was looking at some reports yesterday. The Russians are capturing Ukrainian boys or young men who have been in uniform for exactly 1 week.
Jeez.
And as a result, they don't know what they're doing. They obviously have no appetite for meeting their maker at this point. So large numbers are surrendering. So the Russians are asking, what are you doing? Well, they've given up on trying to persuade us to back off and put an end to this. So now they've said, we're not going to let you get away with what you've done in Ukraine and Venezuela. And this is the new, quote unquote, multipolar world, the post rules-based liberal order, which I always laugh at because I never saw any evidence for real rules other than whatever we wanted to impose. So the bottom line is, I think this could blow up in our faces. If we end up in a fight with those warships and we sink them, which I would imagine we could do, it's hard to tell what might happen at that point. I mean, the Russians have the capability to target everything from essentially Lithuania all the way to Romania and from Poland all the way to the border with France. And they could do that, and they could do an awful lot of damage in a very short period of time. So I think this is sort of the last straw for the Russians, and I think we're surprised because we've always believed, the wrong things.
And that's funny because he said we always believe the wrong things. Like the West wants you to believe that Ukraine is winning this war. Ukraine is losing this war miserably. Okay, because we know, as it says in the book of Proverbs 21 and verse 1, it says the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord is directing these nations to fight, but ultimately he's raising up the Medes, as it says in the book of Isaiah, the 13th chapter, to take down Babylon and its allies. Because, and I just saw something here, just to point out something. This information here, look what it says. This title says, things are out of control. Ukraine should surrender. So now, of course, they don't want people to know that Ukraine is losing this war. Look what I just noticed here to the Spirit. This video was posted, it says 13 hours ago with only 58 views. But yet 160 people liked the video. Make that make sense. So they're trying to suppress the fact that the Ukrainians is getting it handed to them. So they should. This is why he's saying they should surrender. The Russian is pretty much. They know they can level Ukraine. As I think it was Putin that said, there's no target inside of Ukraine that they can't touch. So they know they can destroy Ukraine. No ifs, ands, or buts. But they know that it is a war. This is America and the West proxy war. Let's continue on.
There's no one that can stand against us. We're the most powerful force on the planet. And that the Russians are weak, incapable, incompetent. It's all nonsense, but that's what we've been peddled.
See, that's what they want you to believe, that the Russians are weak. They're weak. That's what they want people to believe. And he said it is all nonsense. And that's exactly what I just said. You talk to the average person out there, they will believe, they'll want you to believe that Ukraine is winning this war. All these NATO nations and EU nations are sending so much of their weaponry to Ukraine for a lost cause. The colonel just said that there is men, as far as 1 week in combat, they're surrendering because they don't want to fight, I saw a video recently where this Ukrainian soldier on social media, I don't know the origin of it, but on social media, and he is crying his eyes out, don't want to fight. And that's prophetic what is coming to America, because it says the great men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They don't want to fight this war anymore. They're realizing that it's a lost cause, because a lot of these soldiers are going to the spirit world. No ifs, ands, or buts.
It's a very desperately dangerous situation in that sense. And of course, the impact on the rest of Latin America is going to be huge no matter what happens. If the Russians are absolutely challenged in the waters off of Venezuela by us, the rest of Latin America will watch carefully. And if we push this and the Russians respond, that could cause large numbers of states in Latin America to align quickly with Russia against us.
There you go.
Seeing Russia as well, at least someone is willing to stand up to the evil Yankee.
And he just spoke on roughly, that's going into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, because it says Russia will be a guard unto these nations, starting with like Iran and Iran and Turkey, and Libya, Ethiopia. North Korea, China, and all these other nations. That's prophetic what he just said, you know?
Because they don't particularly care much for us anyway. And if you want to go back over the historical record, you can find lots of examples of disastrous interventions.
Let me pause it right there. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, and starting at verse 1, and it reads, it says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear and hearken. Listen, ye people. Let the earth hear and all that is therein, the world and all the things that come forth of it." See, because all these weapons here, all these missiles and drones, these are all what? The weapons of the Lord's indignation. The Lord gave these, as it says here in the book of, let me actually bring it out. It says in the book of Isaiah, let me bring it out 1 second. Isaiah 54 and verse 16. It says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy." So these are all part of the Lord's weapons of his indignation. Yes, he granted them the technology to build these weapons. See, fuel for the fire. It says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear and all that is therein, the world and all the things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord YAHAWASHI, the righteous anger of the Lord YAHAWASHI, is upon all nations." Are you listening to this? Is upon all nations, and his fury upon their armies. Are these armies assembling right now and starting to fight? It says, "He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter." And that's what I just said in the spirit. I said a lot of these soldiers are going to the spirit world for that reason, because it tells you in the book of Isaiah 66 and verse 16, "The slain of the Lord shall be many." You know, the slain of the Lord shall be many. See, it says Isaiah 66 and verse 16, it says, "For by fire and for by his sword will the Lord YAHAWASHI plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many." So right now, this is what the Lord is doing. He is gathering these nations together to fight. Here's another video I got to show you from the events that took place, transpired a few hours ago. So let's show you there. This is from off of TikTok, Sky News. Once again, fair use, fair use, fair use. I don't own this video. I'm not making any money from this video. Fair use, fair use, fair use. Stand by. I just peeped on something here. Look what these people are saying. First one, he says, he said he, but it says Lynn. They said, "I hate Russia." Number two, that is what winning looks like. See, right spirit. Ukraine is winning. This is and skeptics still think Ukraine will win. I just don't get it. You know, and this other person here, you know, goes on to something different. They're saying free Palestine. But the point is that they want you to believe that Ukraine is winning this war. Ukraine is not winning this war. I think I got another article here. No, this is not the one. No, let's go here. Let me play a little bit more of this here, and then we'll go back to something else.
You know, I wish there was some good news, but I don't see any. I see stupidity and self-delusion on.
And that's pride, stupidity and self-delusion. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13 and verse 5. It says, "They come from a far distant land, from the ends of the heavens." Talk about these missiles, you know, because Russia, like I said, I did a lesson last year to the spirit. it talked about all these weapons of these missiles that Russia was boldly displaying on their national television, and they were giving you like the location, the city from Moscow to different parts of America, and it was telling you how long it will take to travel from one part to the next. And that was before they released these latest new missiles that are even far more capable of doing far more damage and traveling far more distance. This is why they're called intercontinental ballistic missiles, from the eastern hemisphere to the western hemisphere. Intercontinental ballistic missiles. It says they come from a distant land and from the ends of heaven, the Lord Yahawah, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land, because these are the weapons of the Lord's indignation. See? So once again, come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear. Everybody needs to hear this message, and all that is therein, the world and all the things that come forth of it. For the righteous anger, the indignation of the Lord YAHAWASHI is upon all nations, and his fury upon their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And this is what the Lord is bringing, a lot of blood. And I went into that word armory, just for edification purposes. It says armory, a place where weapons are kept. Yes, a place where weapons are kept. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. This is what is coming. This is prophetic. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder? This is talking about America, the hammer of the whole earth. You don't need to go very far to see what America is doing. Putting sanctions on these nations, sending troops to destabilize governments, having all these agencies to destroy, put in their own leaders, colonizing places, destroying world leaders, destroying citizens. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for thee, a snare is a trap, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware, because his pride is lifted up. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord YAHAWASHI. And here's the point. The Lord have opened up his army. The Lord Yahawah have opened up his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. We just broke that down. For this is the work of the Lord power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans, America. Come against her from the uttermost border and open her storehouses. Cast her up as heaps and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. See, because this is all prophetic for what is coming to America. So, like I said, I just wanted to bring out something really quick through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI. I hope that you've been edified. Till the next time, I want to say Tawada, Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, RAWCHAA, QADASH for giving me the inspiration. Actually, 1 second. I think I had another. Tawada, YAHAWASHAM, YAHAWASHI. I completely forgot this article here. So this is what this is This is from a website called the Mint. Russia strikes cripple Ukraine's power grid ahead of winter. Centrangio, Centrigini Negro says all its plants are down. Salaki if I butchered that. It says Ukraine-Russia war as winter looms. Russia escalated its assault on Kiev energy infrastructure, crippling power and heating. All thermal power plants are down, leaving thousands without heat or light. Darkness. It says, as the Ukraine-Russia war entered its fourth winter, Moscow on Friday escalated attacks on energy infrastructure in Kiev, crippling the power grid, leaving thousands of people in darkness. The attack on the power plants and facilities have prompted power cuts in several regions, further risking heating outages and ahead of the winter months. The attack on the power plants and facilities have prompted power cuts in several regions. Oh, I just read that. It says Russian strikes once again targeted people's everyday life. They deprive communities of power, water, and heating, and destroy critical infrastructure and damage railway networks, reported Reuters, quoting foreign minister. This is the Ukrainian foreign minister. So they had no choice but to give a statement on this. Restoration Minister Oleksiy Kubela stated that the power outage have affected train services. Prime Minister said that the focus was on the rapid restoration of heat and light, and efforts were underway to eliminate the consequences for the country. So they're getting handed to them large, big time. You see? So like I said, I just wanted to bring out something really quick through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI. I hope that you've been edified. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor due to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, or QADASH. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Hope that you've been edified. The water, YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. Shalom.